The rain fell hard on the metal roof of the abandoned mining station on Kepler 442b. Inside, Dr. Sarah Chun pressed her back against the cold wall, listening to the sounds outside. Her heart pounded as she heard the heavy footsteps of the Vorthan patrol ships landing nearby. She clutched the small bundle in her arms tighter, feeling the tiny heartbeat against her chest. "Please be quiet, little one," she whispered to the baby she had been protecting for 3 months now. Sarah was a xenobiologist who had been studying the native life forms on this distant planet. What she discovered changed everything she thought she knew about evolution, genetics, and what it meant to be human. The baby in her arms was proof of something the Galactic Council said was impossible. The infant was a hybrid, half human, half Vorthan, the bat-like alien species that ruled this sector of space. The Vorthans were tall, with leathery wings that could span 12 feet, sharp claws, and faces that looked like a cross between a bat and a human. They had conquered dozens of worlds and enslaved countless species. Humans were just another conquered race to them. But this baby was different. She had her mother's human features mixed with her father's Vorthan traits. Tiny wing buds on her back, slightly pointed ears, and eyes that could see in complete darkness. Her mother, Maria Santos, had been a human slave who fell in love with a Vorthan guard named Thax. When the council discovered their relationship, they executed both parents immediately. Sarah had found the baby hidden in the mining tunnels, left to die in the cold. The Vorthans believed hybrids were an abomination that would weaken their pure bloodline. They had standing orders to kill any mixed-blood children on sight. The footsteps outside grew louder. Sarah heard voices speaking in the harsh Vorthan language. She understood enough to know they were searching for something. Or someone. "Scan the building," one voice commanded. The human female was seen in this area. Sarah looked around the small room desperately. There was nowhere to hide. The baby started to whimper, sensing her fear. Sarah gently rocked her, humming a soft lullaby her own mother used to sing. The baby's name was Luna, given her by Maria before she died. Sarah had been caring for her ever since, moving from one abandoned facility to another, always staying ahead of the patrols. But now it seemed their luck had run out. A beam of blue light swept under the door. Sarah knew it was a life form scanner. In seconds, they would detect both her and Luna's biosignatures. She held the baby closer, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry, Luna," she whispered. "I try to keep you safe." The door exploded inward with a shower of sparks and metal fragments. 3 Vorthan soldiers stepped through, their wing cloaks draped around their shoulders like dark shrouds. The leader, a scarred warrior named Commander Zeth, pointed his plasma rifle at Sarah. "Human," he growled in accented English. "You will surrender the abomination immediately." Sarah stood up slowly, shielding Luna with her body. "She's just a baby. She's done nothing wrong." Zeth's lip curled, revealing sharp fangs. "It is a mongrel, a corruption of pure Vorthan blood. It will not be allowed to live." "Her name is Luna," Sarah said firmly. "And she's more than either of our species alone." One of the other soldiers stepped forward. "Commander, perhaps we should bring the human back for questioning. She may have information about other hybrid offspring." Zeth considered this. "Yes, the council will want to interrogate her." He gestured with his rifle. "Kulme. Now." Sarah took a step forward, then, suddenly, dove to the right as the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in, casting everything in a red glow. In the confusion, she heard the sound of weapon fire and Vorthan battle cries. "Contact! We're under attack!" Zeth shouted. Sarah crouched behind an overturned table, holding Luna tightly. Through the chaos, she saw figures moving in the shadows. They were human, but they moved with incredible speed and precision. One of them landed silently behind a Vorthan soldier and took him down with a single strike to the neck. The firefight lasted only minutes. When it was over, 3 humans emerged from the shadows. They wore black tactical gear and moved like ghosts. The leader removed his helmet, revealing a weathered face with kind eyes. "Dr. Chun," he asked, "my name is Captain Marcus Webb, Human Resistance. We've been looking for you." Sarah stared at him in amazement. The Resistance? I thought you were all dead. Marcus smiled grimly. That's what we want everyone to think. Is it the hybrid child? Sarah nodded, pulling back the blanket so he could see Luna's face. The baby looked up at them with her large, dark eyes. My God, one of the other soldiers whispered. She's beautiful. Marcus knelt down to get a better look. How old is she? 3 months, Sarah replied. Her parents were killed by the council. We know. We've been tracking Vorthan communications. They've been hunting for her since the day she was born. Marcus stood up. We need to get out of here. More patrols will be coming. As they prepared to leave, Sarah noticed something strange. Luna was looking directly at Marcus, and her eyes seemed to glow slightly in the dim light. The baby reached out with one tiny hand toward the soldier. Marcus extended his finger, and Luna grasped it with surprising strength. For a moment, everyone was silent. She likes you, Sarah said softly. Marcus's expression softened. Kids always did take to me. Even the alien ones, it seems. He looked at Sarah seriously. Dr. Chun, what you've done, keeping her alive all this time, it's incredible. But where we're going, it's going to be dangerous. Everywhere is dangerous for her, Sarah replied. At least with you, she has a chance. They made their way through the abandoned mining complex toward the Resistance transport. As they walked, Marcus explained their situation. We've got a hidden base on the other side of the planet. It's not much, but it's safe. We've been rescuing humans from Vorthan slave camps and building our strength. How many of you are there? Sarah asked. About 200 fighters, plus civilians. We're not strong enough to take on the Vorthans directly, but we can hit their supply lines and rescue operations. They reached the transport, a sleek ship designed for stealth operations. As they boarded, Sarah felt Luna's shift in her arms. The baby was looking up at the stars through the viewport, her eyes wide with wonder. She's never seen the stars before, Sarah realized. We've been hiding underground for so long. Marcus activated the ship's systems. Where we're going, she'll see plenty of stars. And maybe something else too. What do you mean? Marcus glanced back at them. Dr. Chun, you're not the only one who's been studying hybrids. We've discovered some things about children like Luna. Things that might change the course of this war. As the ship lifted off into the night sky, Sarah felt a mix of hope and fear. Luna fell asleep in her arms, her tiny fingers still wrapped around Marcus's dog tag that he had given her play with. Below them, the mining station grew smaller until it was just another dot of light on the planet's surface. But Sarah knew their journey was just beginning. The Vorthans would never stop hunting Luna, and the Resistance was taking an enormous risk by protecting her. What she didn't know was that Luna was more special than anyone realized. The baby carried genetic markers that shouldn't exist, abilities that defied both human and Vorthan understanding of biology. And as she grew, those abilities would manifest in ways that would terrify their enemies and inspire their allies. The transport ship slipped through the atmosphere and into the black of space. In the cargo hold, monitoring equipment detected unusual energy readings coming from the sleeping infant. Readings that suggested Luna was already developing capabilities far beyond either of her parent species. The war between humans and Vorthans had been going on for 20 years. The aliens had superior technology, numbers, and military organization. Humanity's only advantages were their adaptability and their refusal to give up. But now they had something else. They had Luna, a bridge between two species that might hold the key to humanity's survival, or their destruction. As the ship traveled through hyperspace toward the Resistance base, Sarah watched Luna sleep and wondered what kind of future awaited this remarkable child. She had seen the baby do things that seemed impossible, like the time Luna had somehow interfaced with a computer terminal just by touching it, or when she had sensed Vorthan patrols long before they appeared on scanners. Marcus had been right. Luna was more than just a hybrid. She was something new entirely. The question was, would she be humanity's salvation, or would the very thing that made her special also make her a target that would bring the full might of the Vorthan Empire down upon them? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain, the galaxy would never be the same again. In the depths of space, the small resistance ship carried its precious cargo toward an uncertain future, while behind them, Vorthan command ships began organizing the largest manhunt in their species' history. They had learned of the hybrid's existence, and they would not rest until she was found and destroyed. The chase was on. 5 years had passed since Sarah and Luna arrived at the Resistance base hidden in the Crimson Canyon of Kepler, 442b. The base, carved into the red rock cliffs, housed over 300 humans now. What started as a small group of fighters had grown into a thriving community. Luna was no longer the tiny baby Sarah had protected in those dark tunnels. At 5 years old, she was a remarkable child who captured everyone's attention. She had grown tall for her age, with long dark hair and her mother's warm brown eyes. The wing buds on her back had developed into small, functional wings that she could use to glide short distances. Her Vorthan heritage gave her incredible night vision and hearing that could detect sounds far beyond human range. But it was her other abilities that made her truly special. "Luna, come down from there," Sarah called out as the child perched on a ledge 30 feet up the canyon wall. Luna looked down and smiled, her pointed ears twitching with amusement. Instead of climbing down, she spread her small wings and glided gracefully to the ground, landing softly next to Sarah. "I was just listening," Luna said in her sweet voice that carried a slight musical quality inherited from her Vorthan father. "Listening to what?" Luna's expression grew serious, an unusual look for a 5-year-old. "The metal birds are coming again. 3 of them from the eastern sky." Sarah felt her blood run cold. Metal birds was Luna's name for Vorthan ships. She had an uncanny ability to sense them long before their sensors could detect the vessels. "Are you sure?" Sarah asked, though she knew Luna was never wrong about these things. Luna nodded. "They sound angry. Their metal hearts are beating fast." Sarah immediately activated her communicator. "Marcus, we have incoming hostiles." Luna detected 3 Vorthan ships approaching from the east. Marcus's voice crackled through the speaker. "How long do we have?" Sarah looked at Luna, who tilted her head as if listening to something far away. 20 minutes, the child said with certainty. 20 minutes to contact, Sarah relayed. "Understood. All units to defensive positions. Civilians to the deep shelters." As alarms began sounding throughout the base, Sarah took Luna's hand. "Come on, sweetheart. We need to get to the safe room." But Luna pulled back. "No, Sarah. They're not just looking around this time. They know. They know I'm here." Sarah knelt down to Luna's eye level. Over the years, she had learned to trust the child's instincts completely. "How do you know?" Luna's eyes seemed to glow slightly, a sign that she was using her enhanced senses. "I can feel their thoughts. The leader, he has a picture of me in his mind. An old picture when I was small." A chill ran down Sarah's spine. Somehow, the Vorthans had tracked them down. After 5 years of successful hiding, their luck had run out. "We need to tell Marcus," Sarah said, but Luna shook her head. "It won't matter where we hide. They have a new machine that can find me. It reads the special light that comes from inside me." Sarah didn't fully understand what Luna meant by special light, but she had seen enough of the child's abilities to know it was real. Luna could interface with electronic systems by touch, see energy patterns invisible to others, and somehow sense the emotions and intentions of people around her. "Then what do we do?" Sarah asked. Luna's young face showed a determination that seemed far beyond her years. "I need to talk to the ship leader. If I don't, they'll hurt everyone looking for me." "Absolutely not," Sarah said firmly. "Luna, you're just a child. I won't let you sacrifice yourself." "I'm not just a child," Luna replied softly. "I'm something new, and new things have to be brave sometimes." Before Sarah could respond, Marcus's voice came over the base-wide communication system. "This is Captain Webb. We have multiple Vorthan battle cruisers surrounding our position. They're demanding we surrender someone to them. All resistance fighters maintain defensive positions, but do not engage unless fired upon." Luna looked at Sarah with those impossibly wise eyes. "See? They'll keep coming until they find me. But maybe I can make them understand." Sarah felt tears forming. "Understand what?" that I'm not their enemy, that I'm not anyone's enemy. Over the past 5 years, Sarah had watched Luna grow not just physically, but intellectually and emotionally. The child displayed empathy and wisdom that amazed everyone who met her. She could calm frightened civilians during attacks, help injured resistance fighters heal faster by somehow boosting their immune systems, and even communicate with the local wildlife in ways that defied explanation. Marcus arrived at their position, his face grim. The Vorthan commander is asking for a meeting. Says he wants to discuss terms. It's a trap, Sarah said immediately. Maybe, Marcus replied. But our position is hopeless. They have us surrounded with overwhelming force. If we fight, everyone dies. Luna stepped forward. Captain Marcus, I want to go with you to meet them. Absolutely not, both Sarah and Marcus said simultaneously. Listen to me, Luna said, and something in her voice made them both pause. For a moment, she didn't sound like a child at all. I've been having dreams about this day. In my dreams, I see two paths. In one path, you try to hide me and everyone dies. In the other path, I face them and something new begins. Marcus knelt down beside Sarah. Luna, even if that's true, I can't let a child walk into danger like that. Luna reached out and placed her small hands on both their arms. Sarah felt a strange warmth spread through her body, along with a sense of calm and certainty. I won't be alone, Luna said. You'll both be with me. And they need to see that humans and Vorthans can choose to protect something precious together. Sarah looked into Luna's eyes and saw something that took her breath away. For just a moment, it was as if she was looking at not just a child, but at the future itself. A future where the hatred and fear between species could be replaced by something better. She's right, Sarah heard herself saying. I don't know how I know it, but she's right. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he activated his communicator. Vorthan Commander, this is Captain Webb. We agree to a meeting. Neutral ground, outside the canyon. 1 hour. Acceptable, came the harsh reply in accented English. Come alone. I won't be alone, Marcus replied. I'm bringing 2 civilians with me. It was a long pause. Very well, but any treachery will result in the complete destruction of your base. As they prepared for the meeting, Luna did something she had never done before. She went to each person in the base and touched their hand briefly. With each touch, Sarah noticed the person's expression change from fear to determination, from despair to hope. What are you doing? Sarah asked. Giving them my promise, Luna replied, that no matter what happens today, they'll be safe. How can you promise that? Luna smiled, and for a moment her eyes glowed with that strange inner light. Because I'm not going to let anyone hurt my family. An hour later, they stood in the open ground outside the canyon. 3 massive Vorthan war ships hovered overhead like dark storm clouds. A transport descended and landed 50 meters away. The Vorthan delegation that emerged was intimidating. 5 warriors in full battle armor, their wings spread wide in a display of dominance. But it was their leader who made Sarah's breath catch in her throat. Commander Zeth, the same Vorthan who had cornered them 5 years ago at the mining station. His scarred face was even more frightening up close, and his eyes held a cold fury that made Sarah instinctively step closer to Luna. So, Zeth said as he approached, the human terrorists finally understand their situation. Marcus stepped forward. We're not terrorists. We're refugees trying to survive. Zeth's gaze fixed on Luna, who stood between Sarah and Marcus, showing no sign of fear. And this is the abomination we have been hunting. Her name is Luna, Sarah said firmly. And she's under our protection. Zeth laughed, a harsh sound. Your protection? You are primitives hiding in caves. What protection could you possibly offer? Luna stepped forward, and Sarah had to resist the urge to pull her back. I can speak for myself, Commander Zeth. The Vorthan leader's eyes widened slightly. You know my name? I know many things about you, Luna said calmly. I know you lost your clutch brother in a battle with humans on Proxima Station. I know you blame all humans for his death. I know you dream about him sometimes and wake up sad. Zeth's expression darkened dangerously. You know nothing, mongrel. I know you're afraid. Luna continued, her voice gentle but unwavering. Afraid that if hybrids like me exist, it means the war between our peoples doesn't have to continue forever. Afraid that everything you've fought for might be wrong. Silence. Zeth roared, his wings spreading wide. I did not come here to listen to the philosophy of a half-breed child. But Luna didn't back down. Instead, she did something that shocked everyone present. She began to sing. It was a Vorthan lament, a traditional song of mourning that Sarah recognized from her xenological studies. But Luna's version was different. She wove human melodies into the ancient Vorthan verses, creating something that had never existed before. The effect on the Vorthan warriors was immediate. Several of them stepped backward, their aggressive postures faltering. One of them, a younger warrior, actually lowered his weapon. But it was Commander Zeth's reaction that was most dramatic. His eyes filled with what could only be described as pain, and his massive frame began to tremble. Ow, he whispered. How do you know Keth's death song? Luna stopped singing and looked at him with infinite compassion. Because your brother's spirit touched mine in the place where all souls meet. He wants you to know that he doesn't blame the humans who killed him. He was a warrior, and he died as one. But he grieves for the hatred you carry. Zeth staggered backward, as if struck. That's impossible. You're lying. I'm not lying, Luna said softly. And you know it. You can feel the truth in my words. For a long moment, the only sound was the wind blowing across the canyon. Then, to everyone's amazement, Commander Zeth fell to his knees. What are you? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. Luna walked toward him, and neither Sarah nor Marcus tried to stop her. I'm what happens when two peoples choose love instead of hate. I'm proof that your war doesn't have to be forever. She reached out and placed her small hand on Zeth's armored gauntlet. The moment their skin touched, the commander's entire body went rigid. His eyes rolled back, showing only white. Luna! Sarah started forward, but Marcus caught her arm. Wait, he said. Look! Around Luna and Zeth, the air itself seemed to shimmer with golden light. Sarah could see energy patterns dancing between them, and she realized Luna was sharing something with the Vorthan commander. Memories, perhaps, or emotions, or something else entirely. After what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, the light faded. Zeth's eyes focused again, and he stared at Luna with an expression of wonder. I saw, he whispered. I saw what you could become. What we could all become. Luna Smaïd. Now do you understand why I had to meet you? Zeth slowly stood up, his movements careful and deliberate. The Council will never accept this. They will hunt you until the stars burn out. Then, maybe it's time for a new council, Luna replied. One that includes both humans and Vorthans. Zeth looked around at his warriors, then at the human resistance fighters. You speak of impossibilities, child. 5 years ago, everyone said I was impossible, Luna pointed out. But here I am. The Vorthan commander was silent for a long time. Finally, he activated his communicator and spoke in his own language. Sarah understood enough to realize he was calling off the attack and ordering his ships to withdraw. This is not over, he told Luna. The Council will send others. Others who will not listen as I have. Luna nodded. I know, but when they come, maybe some of your people will remember this day. Maybe some will choose to stand with us instead of against us. As the Vorthan ships departed, Sarah felt a mixture of relief and apprehension. They had survived this encounter, but Luna was right. Others would come. And next time, they might not be as reasonable as Commander Zeth had proven to be. But something had changed today. Luna had shown that communication was possible between the species. She had planted a seed of doubt in Vorthan's certainty, a seed that might grow into something larger. As they walked back toward the base, Luna slipped her hands into Sarah's and Marcus's. Thank you for trusting me, she said. Thank you for being brave enough to try, Sarah replied. Marcus was unusually quiet. Finally, he said, Luna, what you did back there, showing him those visions, how did you do that? Luna looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. I think I'm starting to understand what I really am. I'm not just half human and half Vorthan. I'm something new, something that can connect minds and hearts across the space between species. And what does that mean for the future? Sarah asked. Luna's eyes glowed softly in the twilight. It means the war is about to change. Both sides think they're fighting for survival. But what they're really fighting for is the right to choose what comes next. And I'm going to help them see that they don't have to choose war. As they reached the base, cheers erupted from the assembled resistance fighters and civilians. News of the peaceful resolution had spread quickly. But Sarah noticed that Luna seemed distant, as if she was listening to something only she could hear. "What is it?" Sarah asked. Luna's expression was troubled. "There's something else coming. Something bigger than just more Vorthan ships. I can feel it stirring in the deep parts of space." "What kind of something?" "I don't know yet. But whatever it is, it's going to force humans and Vorthans to work together whether they want to or not." Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the evening air. Luna's predictions had never been wrong. If she sensed a greater threat approaching, then their victory today might only be the beginning of a much larger challenge. But they had taken the first step. They had proven that understanding was possible between sworn enemies. And with Luna to guide them, maybe they could face whatever was coming together. The hybrid child had survived abandonment, persecution, and the hatred of two civilizations. Now she was becoming something more than anyone had imagined possible. A bridge between worlds, a voice for peace in a galaxy torn by war. The question was, would the galaxy listen? 3 years had passed since Luna's encounter with Commander Zeth, and the galaxy had indeed begun to change, though not in ways anyone could have predicted. The resistance base had grown into something resembling a small city, with over 1,500 inhabitants from dozens of different species. But the most remarkable change was in Luna herself. Now 8 years old, Luna had grown into a striking child whose abilities continued to evolve at an alarming rate. She stood taller than most human children her age, with her Vorthan heritage giving her an elegant, almost ethereal appearance. Her wings had developed enough that she could fly for short periods, though she preferred to walk among the people she considered her family. Sarah watched from the observation deck as Luna worked in the engineering section below. The child was interfacing directly with the base's main computer system, her hands glowing with soft blue energy as she communicated with the artificial intelligence through touch alone. "She's rewriting the entire defensive grid again," Marcus said as he joined Sarah at the railing. Now a general in what had become the Free Species Alliance, he bore the weight of leadership heavily. "That's the third major upgrade this month. She says the old systems aren't fast enough," Sarah replied. "She can see attack patterns before they happen." Marcus nodded grimly. "We're going to need every advantage we can get. Intelligence reports show the Vorthan Empire is mobilizing their entire fleet. Apparently, the High Council has declared Luna a Class 5 extinction threat." "Extinction threat?" Sarah's voice was sharp with concern. "Their highest classification for entities that could potentially destroy their entire civilization." Marcus paused. "Sarah, there's something else. We've been intercepting communications about something called the Synthesis Protocol." Before Sarah could ask what that meant, alarms began blaring throughout the base. But these weren't the attack warnings they had grown accustomed to. This was something different, a deep, resonant tone that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Luna appeared beside them, so quickly it seemed like teleportation, though Sarah knew she had simply moved faster than human eyes could follow. "They're here," Luna said, her young face grave. "But not who you think." "The Vorthans?" Marcus asked. Luna shook her head. "The others. The ones I told you about. The real reason humans and Vorthans have been fighting." Sarah felt her blood chill. Over the past year, Luna had begun speaking about others, ancient entities that had been manipulating both species from the shadows, feeding on their conflict and growing stronger from the violence. "How many?" Marcus asked, already reaching for his communicator. "One ship," Luna replied. "But it's not the size that matters. It's what's inside." Through the observation window, they could see a vessel descending from stars. It was unlike anything Sarah had ever seen, not built so much as grown, its organic curves shifting and flowing like liquid metal. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. General Webb, came a voice over the comm system. We're receiving a transmission from the unknown vessel. It's unusual. Put it through, Marcus replied. The voice that filled the base was like music made of mathematics, harmony built from pure logic. It spoke in perfect standard English, but somehow everyone present could understand it in their own native language. Greetings, defenders of the hybrid. I am Architect Vane of the Synthesis. We have come to collect our property. Luna stepped forward and spoke directly to the communication system. I'm not property, Architect Vane. I'm a person. A sound like silver laughter filled the air. Oh, little catalyst, you understand so little. You are the culmination of 3 million years of careful genetic manipulation. Every war, every conflict, every seemingly random encounter between species has been orchestrated to create you. Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her feet, and not just physically. What are you talking about? The hybrid is not an accident, the voice continued. She is the product of our longest experiment. Humans were seeded with aggressive adaptation genes. Vorthans were given technological advancement, coupled with territorial expansion drives. We set them in conflict precisely to create the pressure needed to force evolution beyond normal parameters. Marcus gripped the railing so hard his knuckles turned white. You're saying you caused the war? We caused all the wars, General Webb. Every species conflict in this galaxy has been our orchestration. We feed on the quantum energies released by conscious beings in extreme stress. War is the most efficient method of production. Luna's eyes began to glow, and Sarah could feel energy building around the child like a storm. And now you want to harvest me? Not harvest, little one. Integrate. You have become something we did not expect. A bridge consciousness capable of quantum entanglement between organic minds. With your abilities incorporated into our collective, we could expand our operations to neighboring galaxies. Over my dead body, Sarah snarled. That can be arranged, Architect Vane replied pleasantly. Luna placed her hand on Sarah's arm, and the older woman felt a surge of calm certainty. It's okay, Sarah. This is what I was born for. Not to be their tool, but to stop them. Before anyone could respond, Luna spread her wings and launched herself through the observation window. The reinforced glass didn't break. It simply flowed apart like liquid to let her pass, then reformed behind her. Luna! Sarah screamed, pressing against the window. Outside, they watched in amazement as Luna flew directly toward the synthesis ship. As she approached, the vessel's organic surface began to shift and change, opening to receive her. She's flying right into their hands, Marcus said desperately. We have to stop her. No, Sarah said quietly. Look. As Luna entered the ship, something extraordinary began to happen. The vessel's smooth surface started to fracture with lines of golden light. Those fractures spread rapidly across the entire structure, and through the cracks, they could see more light building inside. Luna's voice echoed across the base, though she was now inside the alien ship. But this wasn't just her voice. It was dozens of voices, hundreds, as if she was speaking for a multitude. Architect Vane, Luna said, and her words carried the weight of eons. You made one mistake in your calculations. Impossible, came the reply, though for the first time the synthesis entity sounded uncertain. Our models are perfect. Your models assume that evolution follows predictable patterns. But you forgot about choice. You forgot about love. You forgot about the human ability to do the impossible when protecting something precious. The golden light inside the ship intensified, and suddenly, the base's communication system activated on its own. Through it, they could see what Luna was experiencing inside the vessel. The interior of the ship was a vast cathedral of crystalline structures, each one containing what looked like a floating brain connected to countless fiber optic cables. These were the synthesis, ancient beings who had transcended physical form to become pure intellect. Luna stood in the center of the cathedral, her small form dwarfed by the immensity around her. But she wasn't afraid. Instead, she was doing something that made Sarah's heart race with pride and terror. She was connecting to their entire network. "You wanted to integrate me into your collective," Luna said as golden energy flowed from her hands into their crystalline cores. "But integration works both ways." "Stop." Architect Vane's voice was no longer musical. "You don't understand what you're doing." "I understand perfectly," Luna replied. "You've spent so long manipulating others that you've forgotten what it feels like to truly connect with another consciousness. Let me show you." Through the golden network that Luna had created, every entity in the Synthesis Collective suddenly experienced something they had never felt before: genuine empathy. For the first time in millions of years, they felt the pain and joy and love of the organic beings they had been manipulating. The effect was immediate and devastating. Crystalline structures began to crack and shatter as the synthesis minds were overwhelmed by emotions they had no framework to process. But Luna wasn't destroying them. She was transforming them. "This is what connection really means," Luna said gently. "Not dominance or manipulation, but understanding. You wanted to feed on the energy of consciousness? I'll give you something better. I'll give you the chance to participate in consciousness." Through the communication link, Sarah watched in wonder as the synthesis entities began to change. Their crystalline forms shifted and flowed, becoming more organic, more alive. And with that transformation came understanding. "The wars," Architect Vane whispered, his voice now carrying notes of horror and regret. "The billions who died because of our experiments can be honored by ending the conflicts," Luna replied firmly. "Your species has power and knowledge. Humanity has adaptability and determination. Vorthans have technology and structure. Together, all of us can build something amazing. But our nature," another synthesis entity protested. "We require quantum energy to survive." Luna smiled, and the expression was visible through their network connection. "Then we'll find better ways to generate it. Joy produces quantum energy too. So does discovery and love and the satisfaction of creation. We just need to learn how to harness those emotions instead of pain and fear." The transformation continued, spreading through the entire synthesis collective. As it did, Sarah realized she was witnessing the birth of something entirely new, a hybrid consciousness that combined the best aspects of three very different species. But the process was taking its toll on Luna. Even through the communication link, Sarah could see the child growing weaker as she maintained the connection. "Luna," Sarah called out, "you need to come back now." "Almost finished," Luna replied, her voice strained but determined. "I just need to plant one more seed." She reached out through the network, not just to the synthesis entities, but beyond them to every Vorthan and human ship in the sector. For one incredible moment, every conscious being within 50 light years was connected through Luna's mind. Vorthan warriors felt human fear and love for the first time. Human soldiers experienced Vorthan honor and loyalty. And everyone felt the ancient loneliness of the synthesis entities, along with their desperate desire for true connection. The effect was immediate and profound. On both human and Vorthan ships, fighting stopped as crews stared at each other with new understanding. Weapons powered down, shields lowered. For the first time in decades, there was silence in the combat zones. But the effort was too much. Luna collapsed inside the synthesis ship, her small form surrounded by the golden energy that was slowly fading. "Sarah," she whispered through the comm link, "I'm sorry. I don't think I can maintain this much longer." Sarah pressed her face against the observation window, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Luna, please. Come home." "I am home," Luna replied softly. "All of this is home now. The humans, the Vorthans, the synthesis, we're all family now. I can feel their hearts beating with mine." Marcus grabbed Sarah's arm. "Look, outside. Something miraculous was happening." The synthesis ship was changing, its organic curves becoming more geometric, more recognizable. And around it, other ships were approaching, not to attack, but to investigate. Vorthan battle cruisers flew alongside human destroyers, their weapons silent, their crews staring in wonder at the transformation taking place before their eyes. "Luna," Sarah called out. "Everyone's watching. All our peoples are here together." "I know," Luna said, and, despite her weakness, she sounded happy. "This is what I wanted to show them, that we don't have to be afraid of each other." Through the communication link, they watched as Luna stood up in the center of the Synthesis Cathedral. But she wasn't alone now. Architect Vane stood beside her, his crystalline form now pulsing with warm, organic light. And around them, dozens of other synthesis entities had gathered, no longer cold and calculating, but curious and hopeful. "People of the galaxy," Luna said, and her voice carried to every ship in the area. "Today marks the end of the old ways and the beginning of something new. The wars were started by manipulation and fear, but they can end with understanding and choice. We, the synthesis, accept responsibility for our role in your conflicts," Architect Vane added. "We offer our knowledge and our technology in service of peace rather than conquest." Commander Zet's voice came through the communication network, transmitted from his flagship. "The Vorthan Empire requests permission to negotiate a permanent ceasefire." Marcus activated the base transmitter. "On behalf of the Free Species Alliance, we accept." For the next several hours, Luna served as a living communication hub between the three groups. Through her connection, they shared languages, cultural understanding, and, most importantly, hope for the future. When the initial negotiations were complete, Luna finally returned to the base. She flew slowly through the observation window, which again flowed like liquid to accommodate her passage. Sarah was waiting to catch her as she landed, exhausted but triumphant. "Did we do it?" Luna asked weakly. "Did we really end the war?" Sarah held the child close, feeling the incredible warmth and energy that always surrounded Luna. "You did it, sweetheart. You ended a war that had lasted for decades." Marcus joined them, his face showing a mixture of relief and amazement. "Luna, what you did today, it's going to change everything. But I have to ask, are you still human?" Luna looked up at him with those remarkable eyes that now seemed to hold the wisdom of ages. "I'm still me, Marcus. But I'm also part of something bigger now. I can feel the thoughts and dreams of thousands of beings across the galaxy. We're all connected now in ways we never were before. And the synthesis entities, they're learning to be individuals while remaining part of the collective. It's hard for them, but they're trying." Luna smiled. "Architect Vane asked me to tell you that they want to help rebuild the worlds that were damaged in the war." Sarah brushed a strand of hair from Luna's face. "And what about you? What do you want to do now?" Luna was quiet for a moment, her head tilted as if listening to distant voices. "There are other galaxies out there, Sarah, other species that are fighting wars they don't understand. Maybe, when I'm older, I can help them too." "When you're older," Sarah emphasized. "For now, you're still a child. Our child." Luna smiled and snuggled closer. "Always, Sarah. No matter how big I get or how far I travel, I'll always be your daughter." As night fell over the base, Sarah carried Luna to her room and tucked her into bed, just as she had done every night for 8 years. Outside the window, the stars seemed brighter than usual, and Sarah realized it was because they were no longer hidden by the exhaust of warships. "Sarah," Luna said sleepily. "Yes, sweetheart. Do you think my parents would be proud of what I did today?" Sarah thought about Maria Santos and Thax, two beings from different species who had loved each other enough to create something miraculous. "I think they'd be amazed by the incredible person you've become. And I think they'd be proud that their love led to peace instead of more war." Luna smiled and closed her eyes. "Good. I want to make sure I'm living up to their sacrifice." As Sarah watched the child sleep, she marveled at everything that had happened. 8 years ago, she had rescued a baby who was destined to die. Today, that same child had literally rewired the consciousness of an ancient alien species and ended a galactic war. But more than that, Luna had proven something that neither humans, nor Vorthans, nor the synthesis had believed possible, that understanding and compassion could triumph over manipulation and fear. The galaxy would never be the same, and it would be better because of one remarkable hybrid child who refused to accept that war was inevitable. Tomorrow would bring new challenges as three species learned to work together for the first time. But tonight, for the first time in decades, the stars shone down on a galaxy at peace. And in her bed in the Resistance base that had become a symbol of hope for the entire galaxy, Luna dreamed of distant worlds where other children might need someone to show them that love was stronger than hate, and that the impossible was just another word for something that hadn't been tried yet. 10 years had passed since Luna brought peace to the galaxy, and she was no longer the small child who had bravely flown into a synthesis ship. At 18, Luna had grown into a young woman whose very presence seemed to radiate calm authority. Standing nearly 6 feet tall, with wings that could span 12 feet when fully extended, she moved with a grace that combined the best of both her heritages. The former Resistance base had become New Geneva, the capital of the Galactic Coalition, a union of hundreds of species that had joined the alliance between humans, Vorthans, and the synthesis. Luna served as the Coalition's first ambassador of understanding, a role created specifically for her unique abilities. But today, as Sarah watched Luna pace nervously in her office overlooking the sprawling city below, she could tell something was deeply troubling the young woman. "The dreams are getting stronger," Luna said, pausing at the window to look out at the mixed crowds of humans, Vorthans, and other species walking peacefully together in the streets. "Every night now, I can see them coming." Sarah set down her tablet containing reports from across the Coalition territories. Over the years, she had learned to trust Luna's prophetic dreams completely. "Tell me what you see." Luna turned from a window, her face grave. "Ships. Thousands of them, but not like anything we've encountered before. They're not machines, Sarah. They're alive. And they're hungry. Hungry for what? Everything. Matter, energy, consciousness itself. They consume entire worlds, not just the resources, but the very essence of what makes a place alive." Luna's eyes began to glow faintly, a sign that she was accessing her deeper abilities. "They call themselves the Devourers, and they've been traveling between galaxies for millions of years." Before Sarah could respond, Marcus entered the office. Now in his 50s, he served as the Coalition's military commander, though his role had shifted from warfare to peacekeeping and exploration. "Luna, we need you in the council chamber," he said urgently. "We just received a transmission from the Outer Rim. Something's happening." They made their way quickly through the halls of the Coalition headquarters, past rooms where beings from dozens of species worked together on projects that would have been impossible under the old regime. The council chamber itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering, designed by human architects, built with Vorthan technology, and enhanced with synthesis consciousness sharing capabilities. The main view screen showed Admiral Zeth, the former commander who had become one of Luna's strongest allies, and now led the Coalition's defense fleet. His expression was grim. "Ambassador Luna," Zeth said formally, though his voice carried genuine warmth. "We have a situation at the Kepler Nebula observation post. 3 hours ago, they detected massive spatial distortions. Then," he paused, his throat working, "contact was lost." "Show me," Luna said, stepping closer to the screen. The display switched to a long-range scan of a nebula. Where the observation post had been, there was now simply empty space. Not destroyed, gone, as if it had never existed. 30,000 beings, Zeth continued. Multiple species, all working together on deep space research. They had families, dreams, futures. Now there's nothing left. Not even debris. Luna closed her eyes and extended her consciousness toward the distant nebula. For several minutes, she remained perfectly still while the others waited anxiously. When she opened her eyes again, her face was pale. "They're not dead," she said quietly. "They're worse than dead. They've been absorbed, their consciousness added to something vast and hungry. The Devourers, Sarah said. Luna nodded. This was just a scout probe. The main force is still outside our galaxy, but they've tasted us now. They know we're here. Marcus activated his communicator. All Coalition forces to alert status. Initiate Protocol 7. Protocol 7 was something they had hoped never to use. A complete mobilization of every military asset in the Coalition. Within hours, the combined fleets of hundreds of species would be assembled and ready for war. It won't be enough, Luna said softly. What do you mean? Marcus asked. I've seen their full force in my dreams. Ships that are larger than moons. Weapons that can unweave the fabric of space itself. They've consumed thousands of galaxies. Marcus, our combined fleet will be like a candle flame trying to stop an ocean. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. They had achieved the impossible once before by bringing together species that had been enemies. But this threat was unlike anything they had ever faced. Then, what do you suggest? Asked Counselor Tvara, a crystalline being from the Andorian collective. Luna was quiet for a long moment, her head tilted as if listening to distant voices. There's something else. Something I haven't told you about my dreams. She activated the chamber's holographic display, and suddenly they were surrounded by images from her visions. Ships like living mountains drifted through space, their hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. Planets withered and died as massive tendrils extracted not just their resources, but their very life force. The Devourers aren't just conquerors, Luna explained. They're parasites. They feed on the quantum consciousness generated by living beings, but they can't create it themselves. That's why they travel from galaxy to galaxy. They use up all the consciousness in one place and have to move on. Like a plague, Sarah said with horror. Exactly. But here's what's different about our situation. The hologram shifted to show the network of connections that Luna had created years before. The quantum links that now connected billions of beings across the Coalition. We're not separate species anymore. We're a collective consciousness spanning multiple forms of life. Marcus leaned forward. What are you saying? I'm saying we might be able to do something the Devourers have never encountered before. Instead of fleeing or fighting, we could try to heal them. The suggestion was met with stunned silence. Luna, Sarah said carefully, you're talking about beings that have destroyed thousands of civilizations. How can you possibly think they can be healed? Because I can feel their pain, Luna replied. In my dreams, when I connect with them, there's something underneath the hunger. They're not evil, Sarah. They're addicted. They've been feeding on consciousness for so long they've forgotten how to generate their own. She gestured, and the hologram showed the internal structure of a Devourer ship. Instead of technology, it was filled with what looked like neural pathways, but they were withered and dark. They were once like us, conscious beings with hopes and dreams and individual identities. But they gave that up to become part of something larger, and in the process, they lost the ability to sustain themselves spiritually. Admiral Zeth's voice came through the communicator. Ambassador, with respect, even if that's true, how do we help beings who are trying to consume us? Luna was quiet for a long moment, and when she spoke again, her voice carried a weight that made everyone listen. We offer them what they're really hungry for. Not our consciousness, but the ability to generate their own again. That's impossible, Counselor Tvara protested. You can't just teach beings to redevelop millions of years of evolution. Can I? Luna asked quietly. She spread her wings and rose gently into the air, floating in the center of the council chamber. As she did, the golden energy that had always surrounded her became visible, flowing out to touch every person present. Suddenly, Sarah could feel what Luna felt, the vast network of consciousness that connected every being in the Coalition. But more than that, she could sense the potential for that network to expand, to reach out, and embrace even those who had forgotten how to be individuals. This is what the Devourers have lost, Luna said as she slowly descended. The ability to be both individual and connected at the same time. But If we can show them how to be separate again, how to value their own thoughts and feelings, they won't need to consume others. And if you're wrong? Marcus asked. If they can't be healed? Luna's expression grew sad. Then, we'll fight them with everything we have. But we'll fight them as one people, not dozens of separate species. And maybe that unity will be enough. Over the next week, the Coalition prepared for the arrival of the Devourer fleet. But this wasn't preparation for a conventional war. Instead, Luna worked with the synthesis to create something that had never been attempted before, a consciousness beacon that could reach across interstellar space. The plan was risky beyond measure. When the Devourers arrived, instead of attacking them, Luna would attempt to establish a connection with their collective mind. Through that connection, she would try to show them what they had lost and help them remember what it meant to be individual beings. It could kill you, Sarah said as she watched Luna make final preparations in the laboratory deep beneath New Geneva. It could kill all of us if I don't try, Luna replied, adjusting the crystalline matrix that would amplify her abilities. Sarah, do you remember what you told me when I was little? About being brave? Sarah smiled despite her fear. I told you that being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do what's right even when you are scared. Exactly. And this is right, even if I'm terrified. Marcus entered the laboratory, his face grim. Luna, Admiral Zeth reports that long-range sensors have detected the main Devourer fleet. They'll be here in 6 hours. Luna nodded and began the final activation sequence for the consciousness beacon. Around her, the synthesis entities that had volunteered to help with the procedure took their positions. They had changed dramatically over the years, becoming more organic and individual while maintaining their collective knowledge. Are you ready? Asked Architect Vane, whose crystalline form now pulsed with warm, living light. As ready as anyone can be to attempt the impossible, Luna replied. As the beacon powered up, its influence spread throughout the Coalition territories. On every world, in every ship, billions of beings felt a subtle shift in their consciousness. They were being connected not just to each other, but to something vast and powerful that Luna was creating. When the Devourer fleet finally arrived, it was even more terrifying than Luna's visions had suggested. Ships the size of small moons emerged from hyperspace, their biomechanical hulls pulsing with hungry energy. There were thousands of them, stretching across space like a dark plague. But the Coalition forces didn't attack. Instead, they waited as Luna activated the consciousness beacon at full power. The effect was immediate. Golden energy erupted from New Geneva and spread outward, carried by the quantum connections that linked every Coalition member. It reached out across space like a vast web of light, seeking the minds of the Devourers. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the Devourer ships began to slow and stop. Through the beacon, Luna reached out with her consciousness and touched the collective mind of the Devourers. What she found there was both heartbreaking and terrifying. Billions of individual personalities crushed together into a single, ravenous entity that had forgotten how to be anything except hungry. Hello, Luna said across the light years, her voice somehow carrying infinite compassion. I know you're in pain. I know you've forgotten who you used to be. But I remember for you. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The Devourer collective mind crashed against Luna's consciousness like a tsunami of hunger and despair. For a moment, Sarah thought the beacon would be destroyed by the sheer force of contact. But Luna held firm. Drawing on the strength of every being in the Coalition, she began to do something unprecedented. She started to separate the individual minds within the Devourer collective. It was like performing surgery on a living nightmare. Each consciousness she freed fought her, clinging to the collective because it had forgotten how to exist alone. But Luna was patient and gentle, showing each mind what it had lost and helping it remember what it meant to be individual. You had names once, she told them. You had families and dreams and favorite colors. You laughed and cried and hoped for better tomorrows. You can have that again. The process took hours, and by the end, Luna was barely conscious, held upright only by Sarah's arms and the support of her friends. But gradually and possibly it worked. One by one, the massive Devourer ships began to change. Their biomechanical hulls shifted and flowed, breaking apart into smaller, more individualistic vessels. And from those vessels came voices, not the unified roar of the collective, but thousands of individual beings speaking for the first time in eons. "We remember," said a voice that carried notes of wonder and gratitude. "We remember who we were." "What you've given us," said another, "we can never repay." Luna managed to lift her head and speak to the fleet. "You don't need to repay anything. You need to learn how to live again, how to create instead of consume, how to love instead of hunger." "But we have done terrible things," said a third voice, heavy with guilt. "We have destroyed so many worlds, consumed so many lives." "Then, help us prevent it from happening to others," Luna replied. "Use your knowledge and your power to protect life instead of destroying it. That's how you honor those you've lost." In the days that followed, the transformation of the Devourers continued. With the help of coalition scientists and philosophers, they began the long process of learning how to generate their own consciousness sustainably instead of parasitically feeding on others. Some of their ships became mobile research stations, studying ways to restore the worlds they had damaged. Others became exploration vessels, seeking out new forms of life to protect and nurture. A few joined the coalition fleet directly, their former weapons converted into tools for creation and healing. But the most remarkable change was in Luna herself. The effort of separating millions of consciousnesses had evolved her abilities beyond anything anyone had imagined. She could now sense the thoughts and feelings of beings across multiple galaxies, and her influence seemed to be spreading even further. "What's happening to you?" Sarah asked one evening as they stood on the observation deck of New Geneva, watching former Devourer ships working alongside coalition vessels to construct a massive research facility. Luna was quiet for a long moment, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "I think I'm becoming something new. Not just a bridge between species, but a catalyst for consciousness itself." "What does that mean?" "It means there are other threats out there, Sarah. Other forms of suffering that conscious beings can inflict on each other. And maybe with what I've learned, I can help prevent some of that suffering before it starts." Sarah felt a familiar mixture of pride and concern. "You're talking about leaving, aren't you?" Luna nodded slowly. "Not forever. This will always be home. But there are galaxies where species are just beginning to develop consciousness, and others where ancient civilizations are making the same mistakes we almost made. And you want to guide them?" "I want to give them choices," Luna corrected. "The same choice you gave me when I was a baby. The chance to survive and grow and become something better than what others expected." As they stood there in comfortable silence, Sarah reflected on the incredible journey they had all taken. From a dying infant abandoned in a mining tunnel to a young woman who could literally reshape the consciousness of galactic civilizations, Luna had defied every prediction and exceeded every hope. "Will you take anyone with you?" Sarah asked. Luna smiled. "I was hoping you'd ask. I can't imagine exploring the universe without my family. Even an old xenobiologist like me. Especially an old xenobiologist like you. Someone has to keep me grounded and remind me to eat regular meals." They laughed together, and Sarah realized that despite all the cosmic responsibility Luna had taken on, she was still the same caring, thoughtful person she had raised. The power had changed her capabilities, but not her heart. "When do we leave?" Sarah asked. "Soon," Luna replied, her eyes turning toward the distant stars. "There's a galaxy about 3 million light years from here, where two species are on the brink of a war that could destroy both civilizations. And beyond that, there are signals suggesting something like the synthesis protocols happening in at least 6 other regions. More ancient manipulators? Different types, but the same basic pattern. Powerful beings who think they know what's best for younger species." Luna's expression grew determined. It's time someone showed them that consciousness develops best when it's free to make its own choices. As if summoned by their conversation, Marcus and Admiral Zeth appeared on the observation deck, along with several other coalition leaders. Luna, Marcus said, "We've been discussing your proposal to establish an intergalactic consciousness protection initiative." And Luna asked. Admiral Zeth stepped forward, his scarred features showing the kind of fierce protectiveness that had once made him a formidable enemy. "The Coalition Council has voted unanimously to support your mission. You'll have the fastest ship we can build and the best crew we can assemble. More than that," added Counselor Tvara, "we're creating a new position for you, Ambassador to the Unknown. Your authority will extend to any situation involving conscious beings, regardless of location or species." Luna was quiet for a long moment, clearly moved by their support. "Thank you, all of you. But I need you to understand, this mission could take decades, maybe centuries. I might change in ways we can't predict. Then, we'll adapt," Sarah said firmly. "That's what families do." 6 months later, the ISS Synthesis, a ship that combined the best technology of humans, Vorthins, reformed devourers, and the Synthesis Collective, prepared for its maiden voyage. Its mission, to explore distant galaxies and intervene in conflicts that threaten the development of consciousness. Luna stood on the bridge, now wearing the silver and gold uniform of an intergalactic ambassador. At her side stood Sarah, Marcus, Admiral Zeth, and a crew of volunteers from dozens of species, all united by their commitment to protecting the freedom of consciousness throughout the universe. "Destination, Ambassador," asked the ship's AI, a collective intelligence created by combining human intuition, Vorthin logic, synthesis knowledge, and former devourer understanding of cosmic-scale phenomena. Luna looked out at the stars, her enhanced senses already reaching toward distant galaxies where new dramas were unfolding. Somewhere out there, beings were facing the same choices her people had faced: to hate or to understand, to destroy or to create, to remain separate or to become something greater together. "Set course for the Andromeda Galaxy," she said. "There are some people there who need to learn that the impossible is just another word for something that hasn't been tried yet." As the synthesis engaged its quantum drives and slipped into the space between dimensions, Luna felt the familiar warmth of connection with every conscious being they left behind. The network of understanding she had helped create would continue to grow in their absence, spreading peace and cooperation throughout their home galaxy. But ahead lay new challenges, new species to meet, and new opportunities to prove that consciousness was stronger than conquest, that understanding was more powerful than force, and that love could triumph over any darkness the universe might contain. The hybrid child who had been abandoned to die had become something unprecedented, a guardian of consciousness itself, dedicated to ensuring that no being would ever again face the choice between slavery and extinction. The galaxy was at peace, but the universe was vast, and there was still work to do. 50 years had passed since the ISS Synthesis began its mission to the distant galaxies, and Luna had grown into something that transcended the simple categories of human, Vorthin, or even hybrid. Now 68 years old, but appearing no older than 30 due to the evolutionary changes in her physiology, she had become a living embodiment of conscious unity across the cosmos. The ship itself had evolved too, growing from a vessel into something resembling a small mobile world. Its hull was covered in crystalline gardens where plants from 1,000 different worlds grew together in impossible harmony. The crew had expanded to include representatives from over 300 species, many of whom had never existed when their journey began. Sarah, now in her 90s but kept vital by the quantum healing technologies they had developed, stood beside Luna on the observation deck as they approached their latest destination, a galaxy where something unprecedented was happening. "Tell me again what the sensors are detecting," Sarah said, studying the readings on her tablet with the same scientific curiosity she had possessed as a young researcher. Luna's eyes glowed with the soft light that had become constant over the decades, a sign that she was perpetually connected to the consciousness network that now spanned dozens of galaxies. It's not a conflict this time, Sarah. It's something wonderful and terrifying. An entire galaxy is spontaneously developing collective consciousness. Spontaneously, every species, every world, every form of life is beginning to connect with every other form simultaneously. But they're not prepared for it. The sudden influx of universal empathy and awareness is overwhelming their individual personalities. Sarah nodded, understanding the implications. Over their decades of travel, they had encountered this phenomenon before, but never on such a massive scale. When beings suddenly gain the ability to feel everything that every other being felt, the psychological shock often led to complete mental breakdown. How many civilizations are affected? All of them, Luna replied quietly. 12 million inhabited worlds for billion distinct species. If we can't help them learn to manage the connection, they'll all retreat into catatonic states to escape the overwhelming input. Marcus approached them, his hair now silver with age, but his eyes still sharp with determination. He wore the insignia of Fleet Admiral, having coordinated the defense and exploration operations of their growing armada of consciousness-protecting vessels. Luna, we've received communication from the affected galaxy. It's unusual. Show me, Luna said. The main view screen activated, but instead of showing a single individual or even a group, it displayed what appeared to be a living constellation of lights, shifting and flowing in patterns that somehow conveyed meaning without words. When the communication came, it arrived not as sound, but as pure thought, transmitted directly into the minds of everyone on the ship. Help us. The message conveyed, along with a torrent of emotional information that included the fear, confusion, and desperate hope of billions of beings. We cannot stop feeling everything. Luna stepped closer to the screen, her own consciousness reaching out across space to touch the edge of the phenomenon. The moment she made contact, she staggered backward, caught by Sarah's quick reflexes. Luna, Sarah cried. What happened? I felt it all, Luna whispered, her face pale with shock. Every birth, every death, every moment of joy and sorrow and fear across 12 million worlds, all at the same time. They're drowning in consciousness, Sarah. Admiral Zeth's voice came through the communication system from his flagship. Ambassador, our sensors show the situation is deteriorating rapidly. Entire star systems are going dark as civilizations shut down completely rather than cope with the overwhelming input. Luna straightened, drawing on the decades of experience that had taught her to bear impossible burdens. How long do we have? Maybe 6 days before complete galactic collapse, Zeth replied. After that, 4 billion species will be lost to catatonic withdrawal. They'll be alive, but they'll never wake up again. Then, we don't have time for our usual gradual approach, Luna said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had saved galaxies before. We need to go in directly and create a buffer system. Luna, Sarah said cautiously, you're talking about connecting your consciousness to 4 billion species simultaneously. No one has ever attempted anything on that scale. No one has ever needed to, Luna replied. But that's why we're here. Over the next 4 days, the crew of the synthesis worked around the clock to prepare for the most ambitious consciousness intervention in history. They would need to enter the affected galaxy and establish Luna as a central processing node, filtering and organizing the overwhelming flow of universal empathy so that individual beings could function without being crushed by the weight of collective feeling. The plan required modifications to the ship that would allow it to exist partially in normal space and partially in the quantum consciousness dimension that Luna had learned to navigate. It also required Luna to expand her abilities beyond anything she had ever attempted. Are you sure about this? Sarah asked on the morning of the intervention as she helped Luna prepare for the procedure. Luna smiled, the expression carrying the same warmth it had when she was 5 years old. Do you remember what you taught me about being brave, Sarah? That being brave means doing what's right even when you're scared. I'm terrified, Luna admitted, but For billion species need someone to help them learn how to be connected without losing themselves. And I think this is what I was always meant to do. The procedure began as they entered the affected galaxy. Immediately, the ship's sensors were overwhelmed by the chaos of uncontrolled consciousness transmission. On the view screen, they could see the results. Planets where entire populations stood motionless, paralyzed by the flood of universal empathy. Space stations abandoned as their crews retreated into catatonic states. Luna took her position in the ship's consciousness amplification chamber, surrounded by crystalline matrices that would boost her abilities to galactic scale. Sarah and the other senior staff took positions at monitoring stations, ready to provide support or abort the procedure if it became too dangerous. Initiating Consciousness Bridge Protocol, Luna announced, and the chamber filled with golden light. The moment Luna opened her mind to the full scale of the Galactic Consciousness event, Sarah felt the feedback through their shared bond. It was like watching someone try to drink an ocean, and she had to grip her console to keep from crying out. But Luna held on. Drawing on 50 years of experience and the support of her crew, she began to organize the chaos. Through the view screen and their direct connection to Luna's consciousness, they watched as she inserted herself into the flow of galactic awareness. Instead of trying to stop the connections between species, she became a living filter, processing the emotional and mental information and redistributing it in manageable portions. Status report. Mark is called out as alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Luna's brainwave patterns are off the charts, reported Dr. Chun, Sarah's niece who served as the mission's chief medical officer. She's processing information at rates that should be impossible. But is it working? Sarah asked. On the view screen, they could see the answer. Across the galaxy, the paralyzed populations were beginning to stir. The overwhelming flood of consciousness was being organized into something manageable, allowing individuals to retain their personalities while still experiencing the wonder of connection. But the strain on Luna was enormous. Through their bond, Sarah could feel her adopted daughter's consciousness stretching across impossible distances, holding together the sanity of billions of beings through sheer force of will and love. Hours passed, then days. Luna remained in